Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, this is Boisterous coming to you with some Diamond League destruction out of the map Cloud Kingdom. Spawning up here in the top right-hand corner, we do have Doncroft as the teal Protoss, and down here in the bottom left-hand corner, we do have his opponent Zman as the yellowish Zerg. And of course, this is in fact Doncroft, not Doncraft, as I regrettably accidentally called him. And I felt like such a tool for like 4 hours after that. I felt awful about myself and about my feeling. You know, my feeling. I only have one of them, but it was feeling horrible after I accidentally called Doncroft. It looks like we have the probe dropping down to this lower ground, which kind of hints at a forge fast expand, especially with this pylon going down in this location, because it means that you can get a forge here and then probably drop a second pylon, build a gateway and a cannon, and, you know, kind of expand out like that. Either that, or he could be going off for kind of like the fancy wall off. I've never seen someone do it quite like this on Cloud Kingdom, but I could see him going like Gateway, Forge, Nexus. I think there's enough room to put a Forge like here and then the Nexus here, and then you could do that kind of wall off that a lot of people like to do on maps like Antigua, where you can have the wall from your ramp connecting to your Nexus and have your Nexus be an actual part of the wall. Now, of course, I don't really like that quite as much versus a Zerg player, just because it makes Zergling run bys actually pretty easy, especially if you do it, again, like I just explained it, because that would be a pretty bad wall. I don't know what his plan is for this pylon, but it's going to be interesting. It looks like it is going to be a forge down at the front, so he's probably just going to extend it down, but I don't know how far does pylon range go? It's not that far. It's really not a crazy amount of distance. I didn't think, at least. It might be, I guess. Oh, okay. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. And just because this game hasn't really kicked off so majorly big, we do have the pylon going down at the front for Doncroft, just being a little bit annoying to Zman, preventing that 15 hatch from going down. Now, of course, Zman was already prepared. He went for the spawning pool first, like most Zerg players will often do, which means that Doncroft, after seeing that, kind of just canceled the pylon. He was just being a little bit cheeky. It looks like we do have the Nexus coming down for Doncroft, so we do have a reasonably fast expand for our Protoss player. The Zerg has, of course, already taken his third hatchery, so I could see a natural coming up very soon as he scouts out that it's a forge fast expand, because that's kind of a big indicator of the fact that Zerg doesn't really need to be afraid for quite a long time, and you can kind of expand out to those 3 hatches, build like 8 Zerglings, and then just go straight up drones until like the 15-minute mark. And that's really all you need to do in that situation. You will take quite a lead as far as economy goes. This is, alright, I can see this. This is a cool wall off. Alright. Doncroft has basically just positioned himself. The pylon is here, and that will basically give redundancy for all of these buildings. Maybe not the forge, but I think it is the forge. I think this actually just covers everything. So this is, I like this wall off. I might steal this from you, Doncroft, whenever I get Protoss in Cloud Kingdom. This is pretty nice. I will give it to him. That's a pretty fancy wall off. But anyway, going back to what I was going to say, I just have a really quick announcement where I have teamed up with Ponera from Anatomy of StarCraft. I'm sure some of you guys have at least seen that series, and we have started producing kind of an interesting look on the Zerg mentality. We're kind of going into it and making the game replays like I do on this channel, except from more of a documentary perspective. We pick someone's replay and we actually watch it from their perspective, and we kind of see what the Zerg hive is doing at any point in a replay. It's interesting. It's gonna get better. The first one was a little bit rocky as far as startup goes, but I can definitely see the potential in it. It's a little bit more of a wonky look at StarCraft, but I kind of like it. It's gonna be fancy, I'm sure. It would appear that we have Warp Gate now coming down for Doncroft. Of course, he has not dropped any additional tech at this point. I wouldn't be surprised to see him just go straight for a Robo, or straight for a Twilight Council, or straight for a Stargate, or straight for whatever tech he wants to go. Specifically because of this Forge FE, it's an extremely hard thing to break. I guess you could kind of Baneling bust it just because of this pylon that's down here, but at the same time, it would be, again, kind of hard to break. Because even if you do Baneling bust the pylon, you still have the cannon to contend with. The positioning on these buildings is really well, and we do have the robotics facility going down, so it is going to be a 1-gate robo. The 3 base from our Zerg player is up, and he's just cranking drones right now. The Protoss player kind of needs to start looking up and seeing how to deal damage, because Doncroft if he just continues doing what he's doing, you're going to keep seeing these waves of 5 to 10 drones coming out just constantly. And this player is really going to take control of the income in the near future. We see him already up 2 drones, and that is really only going to extend out as he keeps producing these 5 drones at a time compared to Doncroft's 2 that, you know, he's chrono boosting, but it's still not nearly as fast as what Z-Man is producing. We do have this Overlord just being a little bit sketchy. He's just hanging out. He's like, "Hi guys, yeah, what's up?" We also have the Immortal starting to pump out. Yeah, that's not the greatest choice in the world for the first unit out of robotics. Usually you want to get an Observer so that you can kind of see what your opponent is doing before you start cranking out an Immortal, because usually people aren't going to roach bust you if they have not already. I say usually because that's you know, that's my personal belief. Usually I don't see a whole lot of roach busts at all anymore. And this is, I guess this could be the infamous 6-gate robo push, but I don't think so because none of the other gateways have gone down at this point. We have one more gateway going down right there, and actually Doncroft places some interesting walls. I'll give it to this guy. He has some fancy wall-up formation. It looks like we do have the Roachborn coming out along with double Evo chamber, so maybe it is going to be a Roach-centric attack, but it's definitely not going to be the early Roach bust that you need to get like a Mortal first for. And at the same time, if you look at Z-Man's economy, it's just starting to skyrocket over Doncroft's. In fact, he's up 14 drones right now, which is quite a few drones. That's quite a lot. We have +1 ranged attack and +1 armor coming up for Z-Man, along with 22 drones. It's a couple drones. I mean, that's a reasonable amount of popping of eggs going on. So basically, he has fully built up his economy. He's up to 83 drones. I would be surprised to see any more additional drones coming out. It looks like an extremely late metabolic boost is going to be coming out for our yellow Zerg player at this time, along with Galil Reconstitution, which will of course make his roaches just a little bit faster. We do have the Twilight Council now popping up for Doncroft, along with 3 gateways, which should bring his grand total to 5 gateways, right? Yeah, 5 gateways. Yeah, 5 gateways. Yeah, I was right. I can do maths. It's all good. Now, of course, this gateway is a little bit on the lazy side, not wanting to transform into that warp gate quite yet. There we go. Just he's the slower one out of the 5. He doesn't really know how to gateway. It's okay. It looks like we have oversaturation at almost every base for Z-Man. That's a lot of drones. This is actually the fair amount of drones, and that's alright. Okay, so oversaturation at this base, most definitely. That's a little bit too many drones. He should probably drop some extractors down there. That would probably help out with that a lot. It would appear that we have the Zerglings now starting their march across the map. They are going to be swinging up and going in for the 3rd base of Doncroft at this point. I'm not actually sure how much true damage they're going to be able to do here, just because the army is already stationed here. There's 2 photon cannons. There's a lot of sentries, and sentries are very good if you can micro them correctly versus any sort of Zergling threat. That was an okay force field, a little bit on the late side, but you know, it would have really just cut the Zerglings in half. And I'm guessing he was planning on dropping 1 here and 1 here, and then maybe 1 up here, because that would actually completely block off any new Zerglings from getting into Liminal, because I'm pretty sure those are the only points of access, right there and right there. There's no way you can sweep around and get into it that way. It would appear that we have quite a big army forming up for Z-Man. This is going to be a large Zerg push. This is going to be that really fast 200 push that Stefano kind of made famous. And it's going to be... Alright, so I can definitely see why it's good that he's been forming up so many Immortals. With 3 Immortals, this attack is holdable, especially if he gets down really nice force fields. If he manages to cut this army in half, I could see Doncroft easily taking the win for this battle, because those Immortals are just going to be doing so much damage to the Zerg forces, and a beautiful placement of a gateway there right before the Zerglings sweep in is going to be extremely annoying. It would appear that he's moving up to the 3rd base, and there the Zerglings start to run in. Nice force fields coming down, blocking all the Zerglings inside, so now the army is pure roach, and with 3 Immortals there, you never want to move up with pure roach. There's even a 4th Immortal coming out. Ranged attacks level 2 is coming out for our Zerg player. It would appear that ground attacks level 2 is also coming out for Doncroft. Where's his 2nd forge? Oh, right, his 2nd forge is his 1st forge, of course. I would also not be surprised to see armor 2 starting to come up for Doncroft at basically any point now, because he does have quite the bank. And in fact, there it is. Called it. What's up? Alright. Well, we do have even 5 immortals starting to crank out here. Or the 5th immortal starting to crank out here. Where is that? Where's the second robo? Oh, there's the second robo. I found it. It's all good. It looks like 3 pounds are coming up now. That is, of course, because of a little bit of a supply block. There's a small skirmish happening on the front of the Protoss' base at this point, but it's quite an easy win for a Protoss because this is 2 infestation pits. I don't know if he forgot that he puts on the first infestation pit when he put down the second one, but his face is going to be a little red if he lets that finish. That's a little bit of a fail. It looks like with the 4th base for the Protoss is going to be a little bit of a hidden nexus up here in the top of the left-hand corner, which should work out well. This base is actually extremely easy to take out as a Zerg. It's just such an open front to swing in from. It's kind of hard to close that off. I guess you can make a wall across here. That's a really big wall, and that's a little bit awkward unless you're already getting up to that phase where you just want 18 gateways, and then you can just build zealots or charge. You can build zealots and charge lots, or even just massive stalkers. It looks like some nice force fields coming out, but the Mortals, sadly trapped at the front, is going to go down to all of Zman's probes, and oh my god, this is a crazy engagement. We have just a ridiculous encircling of the units of Doncroft. It looks like some beautiful sniping is coming out from Zman, and he might just take this fight, but it wasn't quite a fair trade. This fight is really going to come on down to it as the second wave comes in for Doncroft. I think he will be able to clean up these roaches and start moving into the main base. This was a beautiful engagement from both players. The Zerg, I can't believe those force fields. Those were amazing. It looks like he is going to manage to snipe off one last immortal. He might even be able to snipe off all of the immortals that are currently there, and that is a beautiful play. That's worth all of these roaches. Most certainly, this engagement was actually a pretty even trade. It looks like we have a whole ton of stalkers starting, or a whole ton of Zerglings starting to come out to combat those stalkers. Because of course, if you don't have those high sentry numbers, it's pretty easy to lose a lot of stalkers to Zerglings. It looks like he's going to be countering that with quite a few zealots, but without charge, these zealots are going to be very, very awkwardly slow. He should really start cranking out a couple more sentries just because he could use the force fields to help out just like they did in the last engagement. Now, of course, those weren't the best force fields I've ever seen. They did allow basically an entire barrier of Zerglings to come up inside the force fields, and I don't think it was even fully blocked off. So as soon as you cleaned up even all those Zerglings, you still didn't have a full-on block off. It looks like we have plenty of sentries now up. I think that is 7, 6. I'm good at counting. It's all good. Didn't even need to open the units tab. Because I know everyone wants me to do that, so why would I do it? I mean, come on, guys. I don't like you that much. It would appear that we have Doncroft just falling back to his main base. If we look at the income tab, we actually have completely even 76 to 76, with Doncroft actually at a bit of a lead, probably because all of these workers have not yet started mining. 12 infestors are on the way. That's a lot of infestors. That's a ton of infestors. Oh my god, 12. That's kind of ridiculous. And with Blink Stalkers, it depends really on how well Doncroft can micro at the start of every battle. There is a Templar archive coming up along with the Robotics Bay. That's what that building's called. It's called the Robotics Bay. So we are going to have a little bit more of a move out from Doncroft this time as he starts to tech up to his tier 3 units. He's probably going to be going for primarily a force of High Templar with maybe just a little bit of a Colossi on the side. And we have some beautiful fungal growths going down this army, but even more beautiful force fields coming out. And oh my god, this is such a great engagement for the Protoss player. He's just going to absolutely push back the Zerg force, and this is going to be a nasty fight. There's still a ton of infestor energy here, so he will be able to get a fungal growth on quite a few units. However, with the blink in from the Stalkers, we are going to see a lot of these roaches start to go down. There are 90 Zerglings on the way. This is the crazy macro style that you'll see from a lot of Zerg players. The 4th base has gone down by Doncroft, so that's pretty nice, but it looks like the army is just about to get cleaned up. The infestors playing a little bit of like the awkward running forth, running back. Surprisingly enough, not quite getting sniped as hard as I would figure they would. And all of the units from Doncroft have been cleaned up. He's really going to need to go into high production mode. At this point, how many gateways does he have? He has 3, 6, 9. I think is that it? Yeah. Alright, so he has 9 gateways, which is actually a fair amount of gateways. He also has the 2 robos, now both cranking out Colossi at an astounding rate. No storm research has yet been started, but I would not be surprised to see that start coming up at any point now. Whoa, that was weird. +3/+3 is now beginning for our Protoss player, along with extended thermal lance. So there are going to be quite a few effective Colossus in this next engagement. And so far, the Greater Spire is coming up, but there are no corruptors up on the map quite yet. It would appear that Zman is being quite aggressive with the Zergling force, but Doncroft is just showing off how good he is with those force fields by batting this army back again and again with quite a lesser force, like just an astoundingly lesser force. It looks like we have the 2 Colossus now up, so these 2 Colossus are going to be able to do quite a bit of damage to this primary army from our Protoss player. We even see the eggs starting to go down before they can hatch, which is a little bit on the sad side. All of those poor infested Terrans, you know, they got scooped up by infestors off the battlefields, infested with this nasty fungally stuff. I don't even know what they get infested with. You know, the Zerg virus just kind of takes them over, and then they get thrown, like projectile vomited, in an egg. Can you imagine getting thrown in something like a beach ball? That would suck. And they get like land on a battlefield, and then their egg starts just searing with colossi heat, and they're like inside of the egg, and then suddenly they just pop out and get one-shotted by a stalker. That is like the worst existence ever. Imagine that. That is a Terran. That is a Terran being. That is their life process. They get severely injured, they get infested, they get thrown in a beach ball, they get killed by a stalker. That's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Anyway, after that little bit of a rant, we do have Z-Man preparing for maybe another push. I'm surprised he has not yet really transitioned out of this very roach heavy play. He is going to be starting to go for this kind of Broodlord plays, which is a little bit on the fancy side. I like Broodlords quite a bit. However, it looks like he's going to be keeping at least this pool of Stalkers for the attack of the Colossi, or maybe for the fact that he does not have any food supplies to actually spend to turn them into Zerglings. Or into Broodlords. They're not Zerglings. Why would I think that Zerglings are the giant things that fly in the sky? Oh man, sometimes I cannot speak and I cannot remember what unit is called. It looks like we do have the fungal going down on the Warp Prism along with the infested Terran, so that Warp Prism is going to be taken out. There are 10 High Templar currently on the way with no Storm, so this is probably just going to be massive. I can see this being a massive Archon Ball, because without Storm, these guys aren't amazingly useful. I guess they can be used to feedback on the infestors, but I would much rather have Archons, because Archons are just so cool. Look at them. They're giant balls of energy. Just pure energy. It looks like we have Z-Man moving up to the front. He is going to be dealing quite a bit of damage to these gateways, sniping off that photon cannon, and he's probably going to be trying to pour into the Protoss base, but a beautiful cut around from Doncroft is going to completely surround this army, and with just Corruptors and without those big Broodlord units that can really help take out an army, I don't see this going well at all for Z-Man, as he actually just gets completely cleaned up. Now, of course, all the Colossi kind of go down, but that's not a bad trade. Keeping all of your Stalkers and losing your Colossi, I could go for that, just because this is a pretty winning situation for Doncroft. We do have 41 Roaches on the way. Z-Man has kind of ridiculous production. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed. He's actually pretty good at larva injections. He's been up to date on most of his. And of course, just having all that larva pumping out at any point in time is absolutely amazing to have. I'm surprised he hasn't quite gone for like the 5th macro hatch or the 6th macro hatch. You know, because I love macro hatches. They're just so much fun to have. They allow you to reproduce armies so freaking fast. It looks like we have 2 Spires going down for upgrades, but Spires don't have 3 upgrade cycles, and I don't think, did the Greater Spire get sniped? Oh god, did the Greater Snipe, did it? There's no structures tab. I think it did. Oh, no, it didn't. Okay, it's just off creep down here. Alright, I'm surprised it's positioned down here at literally the most vulnerable base in the Zerg formation. I could have seen it, like, here, or, yeah, I guess you don't want to put it next to the infestation pit, but definitely, like, here. There are tons of places that are better for the Greater Spire, and there's a ton of Queen here that could drop a creep tumor to save it. However, that doesn't look like that's the Queen's plan. We do have Stargate Tech now coming out for Doncroft, so we are going to see that kind of transition into Air Protoss, which is very popular in kind of the late game. At least getting a mothership out is extremely popular. There are 9 Broodlords forming. That's quite a few Broodlords indeed. 9 Broodlords. There are still 5 Corruptors out on the field. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to, if he's going to want to turn these 5 Corruptors into Broodlords, because it's kind of nice to have those Colossi killers still out on the field. However, at this point, There's not that many Colossi in this army, it's just one, so I could see him actually turning all of his Corruptors into Broodlords, and being quite okay with that. It looks like he's going to be keeping these 5 Corruptors just for a little bit of defense though, which, again, reasonable choice, pretty nice. It looks like he's making a backup Greater Spire, which is, I like that, that's not bad. However, he should be researching from this Greater Spire as well, unless he just completely forgot that this Greater Spire existed altogether. We do have 2 Colossus coming out, so those Corruptors are in fact going to come into play quite nicely. There are 6 more Infestors on the way, which will bring him up to a total of 8 Infestors, which actually is not nearly as many as he had earlier, but it's still not bad. These 2 full energy Infestors are going to be able to do quite the lockdown on this army. Now, of course, this is the point where the Protoss army starts being quite faster than the Zerg army, and we see him being quite ballsy with these expansions. And sweep around from Zman is going to be happening here, and with some nice fungal growths, he could take out quite a big portion of this army. It looks like he is forcing the engagement with these roaches and with those fungal growths, but with so many Broodlords, Doncroft is not going to want to stay around for long. I'm surprised he's not pushing the attack here. That was a pretty nice position to have your Broodlords in. And it looks like, in fact, he is going to be pushing the attack now that he has way more Infestors. So we're going to see a pretty nice engagement coming out here from Zman, because there's not a really easy way to blink up and under all of these Broodlords at this point, especially with some beautiful fungal growths going down on the primary force. These Broodlords are just going to be starting to do so much damage to the army of Doncroft. It would appear that the Stalkers are finally going for that blink under. However, it's not being amazingly effective. They managed to take out 1, 2 Broodlords. They might even get a 3rd, but it's not going to go much further than that as these Broodlings just start to push them all back. And this is looking like a pretty good situation for Zman to be in. The only issue is, of course, that Stargate tech is up and the Fleet Beacon tech is up. So I could actually see like a, carrier transition going down from Doncroft. The only issue is that he's basically on 2 mining bases at this point. The same with our Zerg player, of course. I doubt this mining base is ever going to get up to complete fruition, and actually, wow, with some nice ability to warp in, we do have Doncroft actually taking this entire fight and maybe the entire game. That was some wonderful gateway production. Is he still only on 9 gates? Because usually you see people starting to approach like 12 gates at this point. And no, he's on 10. Alright, 10 gates is actually a reasonable amount. I just need to sweep around one last time, make sure that's still only 10. Yes, indeedly do. Yeah, that was a pretty nice engagement from Doncroft. I'm surprised it went that well for him. I mean, I guess I can kind of see it going that well for him with just the Stalkers and the fact that he has ridiculous upgrades at this point. But even then, with 12 Infestors, that should have been a reasonable fight to hold here. 12 more Infestors are on the way. So we'll bring him up to a grand total of 22 Infestors. Because, you know what? You gotta have Infestors. I mean, come on, guys. You need all the Infestors. It looks like we have the Terran eggs coming out, but they are getting roasty toasty by the Colossus. And this is what I'm talking about. This would suck. Getting thrown in the beach ball, getting roasted from the inside of that beach ball out by Colossus fire, and then hatching to just more Colossus fire killing you. That's awful. So it looks like he is going to be up to 20 Infestors if I counted right, and I saw 2 die during that fight, but he is oh no, it's only 16 Infestors. More than 2 died in that fight. Actually, a lot more than 2 are dying currently. It looks like the Observer is out. That Observer is going to be doing an amazing amount of damage as Zman calls the GG, and that was quite beautifully played by Doncroft. I definitely like that little engagement where he kind of just held his ground near a pylon and just kept warping in Stonkers, because with 10 warp gates, it's very hard to overcome that kind of production as a Zerg player. So anyway, guys, if you would like your games commentated, you can send them on into boisteroussc2@gmail.com. Also, if you would like to watch any other Boisterous action, you can head over to youtube.com/user/boisteroussc2. I would like to thank you all for watching, and this is Boisterous signing out.